Coming up,
We really have to adapt to new things, especially with doing fully remote school learning is really difficult.
It does get stressful just because it's not the way it used to be before the pandemic.
students weigh in on schoolwork and the challenges nearly 1 year into the pandemic. Plus, we'll get some advice on what you kids can do to help relieve some stress and stay positive. Plus, Dr. John answers your latest questions.
Can the coronavirus go through our clothes and infect us?
Then, new discoveries. We head to Egypt, where an archeologist has unearthed ancient board games, and one boy in Virginia has made his very own version of one. And Google, Doodle, will take a look at the artists behind those famous search engine doodles and find out how you can get a chance to design a doodle for Google yourself. That's fun to say, Doodle for Google.
This is NBC Nightly News, Kids Edition.
Welcome back to Nightly News Kids Edition, everybody. It's really great to be with you guys. I'm coming to you from my apartment in New York City. I hope you and your families are safe and doing well. Look, we know there is a lot going on in the world, and as I've said here on this program before, we're here to help you try to understand. We've got a terrific lineup just ahead, including some tips to help you guys manage schoolwork so you're not feeling so overwhelmed. Plus the Google Doodle, and I'll also share one of my favorite videos of the week. I'll give you a hint. It's reportedly one of the best snow days ever. But first, let's begin with your questions, and we received a ton of new ones from you guys asking about the coronavirus and the latest on the vaccine. So let's get straight to them. Joining us now for our Ask the Doc segment is our pal, Dr. John Torres. Dr. John, our first question is about the vaccine. It's a subject we continue to receive a lot of questions about, of course.
Hi, I'm Amira from St. Louis, Missouri, and I have a question for you. Will the coronavirus vaccine protect us from other viruses in the future? Thank you. I love Nightly News Kids Edition. Bye!
Hey, bye, Amira. Thank you for that great question. John, what about that?
You know, Lester, Myra has a very smart question because you think about it, we're getting this vaccine for coronavirus, but can it protect us from other ones? No, it can't. And that's why you need to get all those vaccines you need to get every so often, because there's a lot of diseases out there. We need to make sure we're protected from each and every one of them, which means different vaccines. But at the same time, the way they made this vaccine, the things they've learned making it, can go forward and make sure that when we're making new vaccines, we can make them a lot quicker. And that's going to be very important because, as you know, these viruses change a little bit. And when they do, we need to keep on top of them. And so even though you need to get the vaccine for coronavirus and a vaccine for measles and mumps and another one for the flu, we'll be able to make those a lot quicker now going forward because of what we've learned.
All right, our next question comes from all the way across the ocean.
Hi, my name's Travis. My name's Tyler, and we live in Malaysia. And our question is, can the coronavirus go through our clothes and infect us? Thank you. We love Nightly News.
All right, guys, good question as well. You know, Dr. John, I was very concerned about my shoes, what I might be tracking in of the coronavirus. What is the connection with clothing?
You know, if you remember back when we first started talking about coronavirus a year ago, we were really worried about our clothes and the things we touched and getting coronavirus that way. But now we know it's not quite that big of a concern, but we still need to do a few things. So if you think about it, like these are little coronavirus models here. If they get on your clothes, they're going to stick to your clothes. And then when you go home, they're going to stick to your hands. And if you touch your face, they're going to stick to your face and get inside your nose and your mouth and maybe your eyes. And that's how you can get the virus. So the best way to get them off your clothes is simply to wash your clothes like you normally do, and the viruses will go away. The best way to get them off your hands, wash your hands, sanitize your hands like you normally do, and that'll make sure that they're clean before you touch your face and make sure you don't get the virus.
Only you would have little coronaviruses right at your hand. All right, Dr. John, our last question is about school and whether it's safe to play with friends.
Hi Lester, my name is Prahlad. And my name is Amhita. Recently, our school opened for hybrid lessons and we went in for in-person learning. Some of our friends are doing virtual learning and they think it's not safe to play with us. So, our question is it safe for our friends to play with us outside if we wear masks?
Thank you.
All right, Paula and Mahida, that's a really good question. And Dr. John, it all comes down to this, when can we hang out together?
And you can hang out now like you were hanging out before, even though you're going to school and they're not necessarily going to school. But it means a couple of things. One, you mentioned masks. You definitely want to wear masks, but you also want to social distance. Make sure you have at least that 6-foot spacing between you and your friends, which means trying to think of games you can play using that spacing. Jump rope. It's a fantastic thing you can do. Have a little jump rope contest. If you have football, you can simply throw a football. If you have a frisbee, toss your frisbee. And the other thing, if you want to have juggling contests, we'll see if I can do it, just go ahead and juggle with your friends. Learn how to do it now. It's a great time, but make sure you social distance and wear your masks.
And I'm looking in your toy box, seeing what else you have in there. It's amazing, Dr. John. All right. Thank you, sir, as always.
You bet.
Now, let's turn to our week-long NBC News series, Kids Under Pressure. We know this past year has been really tough, especially when it comes to school and remote learning. And whether you're back in school full-time or still remote learning, we wanted to hear from you on how you're feeling.
We really have to adapt to new things, especially with doing fully remote school learning is really difficult, especially with the really hard subjects like math and stuff. So I think one of the hardest parts for me is just sitting in the same spot for like 8 hours pretty much. So last year, obviously you would move from class to class and, see different people, but it's like now I'm just sitting at my desk for 8 straight hours, just looking at my computer screen, and then my head starts to hurt a lot. And then at the end of the day, we get like hours of homework at the end, and then it's just computer time on computer time.
It's hard because usually they keep everyone on mute, and they make it so you can't unmute, and they disabled the chat so you can't even talk to anyone, so it's hard to contact the teacher besides emailing, which they only check after class.
I particularly like in-person school much more because I get to meet my friends and meet my teachers, and I really am just really disappointed when I have to, for the other half of the week, go to Zoom.
I think the hardest subject is probably math because usually we get to go and do projects together and we get to socialize with each other while doing projects, but now we can't. And we can't work together because we have to socially distance.
The hardest part of the school day is probably the free time when we could socialize with our friends, because normally we can, but now we can't, especially with the other pods.
It does get stressful just because it's not the way it used to be before the pandemic. I feel like this year a lot of students had to learn these topics on their own. If you need help understanding a topic, you don't necessarily have the communication with the teacher as we used to in person.
When I'm at home, it's really hard because sometimes my computer will lag off and I miss some of my schoolwork, or sometimes I'm trying to talk to the classroom and unmute myself on Zoom, but it won't let me, and that's really annoying. So being at home on virtual is very hard.
Here with some helpful tips is Allison Cantor-Agliata, a psychologist and former middle school principal. Allison, it's great to have you here. What are some stress-busting techniques that kids might want to employ if they're feeling stressed out or a lot of anxiety over their schooling situation?
Sure, Lester. There's a number of things that students and children can do to help relieve some of the stress that they're feeling under these circumstances. But the first one I always impress upon is self-care. So I know that sounds like a funny word, but really we're just looking at very basic things that are good health tips. So eating well, sleeping enough, and getting some good old-fashioned exercise. There's a number of relaxation tips that children can use as well. Very simple steps such as deep breathing and body scans. There's even a lot of great examples that you can find on kids' YouTube these days that just walk you through basic steps on how to calm your body down if you're feeling anxious or sadness or any kind of emotional control that you're needing.
One of the pieces of advice you share I really like and I want to explore a little bit is for kids to find their own superpower. What do you mean by that?
Well, there's all things when we talk about strength-based training, we all have a superpower, things that we are naturally really good at or are very passionate about. Every child and every adult has their own superpower or thing that they are most confident in and that they enjoy doing. So it's important to use these things because we can really not only use them to help ourselves, to help other people around us, but it's something that we can use just to be joyful and to express ourselves and our emotions that we're feeling, especially in a stressful situation.
Whether you're working at home or you're studying at home, you're spending more time on the internet. How hard is it to create boundaries for yourself, though, under the circumstances when you need it for learning or working?
Yeah, we do absolutely need it. And it's been a lifeline and a blessing in a lot of ways, but we certainly do need limits and boundaries with it as well. And it's hard to create those for ourselves. So whether we talk with a trusted adult about how much of that we need to set those limits and stick to them. So getting outside, again, provides an opportunity not just for exercise and for fun, but it also helps us just receive sunlight. And we know that just as an affect stimulator, it helps us lift our mood. It gives us more natural light. So physically, it's a great way to affect both your physical health and your mental well-being.
And I don't want to leave you and end this conversation without giving a shout out to kids, because I know some things are really working for kids. And I know that's important for you to talk about.
Yeah, I think sometimes when we have adverse situations or obstacles that we're trying to overcome, we often spend a lot of time talking about the downside. But I think our students have learned a tremendous amount of resiliency. Our students are learning to be agile and flexible during a time where the rules are changing for them. And I think we need to give them a lot of credit, along with teachers and our essential workers and all of these people who are maybe filling roles that they aren't used to. For children, that often is now helping around the house and chores they may not normally have done, or being more independent, maybe taking care of a younger sibling or learning to cook to help the family while their parents are working. So these are all new life skills that, although they've come under difficult circumstances, really may benefit them in the long run. So, a lot of this is about mind shift and looking at things with a new perspective and trying to kind of rebuild in a new day and age. We don't have a lot of control over what is going on with the virus and the pandemic. So we really have to look within ourselves to figure out how to stay positive and how to survive and thrive during a difficult moment.
All right. Allison Cantor-Agley, had a really great talking to you. I'm glad we got you on the program here. Great advice for kids. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me, Lester.
Well, the winter weather continues to hit parts of the country this week as we head into the second half of February. And we know for some families, these last few weeks have been pretty tough. But there's one resident of Washington State who enjoyed what looks like a fun snow day recently. Take a look at Blizzard. Blizzard, the polar bear, that is. He's not shy about his love for the snow. The 25-year-old polar bear took advantage of all the fresh powder in Tacoma. The Point Defiance Zoo and Aquarium posted this video on Twitter with this caption: "Polar bear Blizzard is having the best snow day ever." You gotta love it. Now, let's head overseas to Egypt, where an archaeologist has just discovered an ancient temple dedicated to a queen who lived more than 4,000 years ago. The area is rich with artifacts, including books, pottery, and even board games. And these board games have captured the imagination of one 9-year-old boy from Virginia. Our pal, Raf Sanchez, has the story.
In the deserts of Egypt, a search for clues about an ancient kingdom. Dr. Zahi Hawass is an archaeologist. His mission? To discover how people in Egypt lived thousands of years ago. What did they eat? What clothes did they wear? What gods did they worship?
Every piece of sand here can tell you a piece of history.
Some of the best clues about how ancient Egyptians lived come from the graves of those who died. That's because they believed in an afterlife, a new life that starts when you die. They took care to wrap their loved ones in cloth. We call those wrapped bodies mummies. The mummies were stored in beautiful coffins painted with pictures to help them in the next world. And for important people, like kings or queens, they built enormous pyramids to store the mummies safely inside. Right now, Dr. Zahi is digging in a pyramid built for an ancient queen.
Yesterday only, we were so lucky to find inscriptions here telling us the name of a new queen in the Old Kingdom. Her name was Neat.
Queen Neat.
Queen Neat.
So she would have lived 4,000 years ago.
4,200 years ago.
And what do we know about her life?
We know nothing. We only found out today her name. We'll know about her life when we discover the whole temple. Then maybe we'll find scenes to tell us about this queen.
So this is a mystery queen. We've just discovered her name.
Exactly, but we will write her name in history.
The Queen and others were buried with things they'd need in the afterlife. A chapter from the Book of the Dead, pots for oil and wine, and a board game called the Game of 20. Ancient Egyptian children loved to play, but today hardly anyone knows about this game. Hardly anyone, that is, except 9-year-old Owen Beckstrands. Owen's fascinated by all things ancient Egypt. He even made his own version of the Game of 20. But he didn't know the rules, so there was only one person to call.
Hi, Owen.
Hi.
6,000 miles apart, NBC News brought Owen and Dr. Zahi together.
You know that in my excavation, I found the Senate game and I found the number 20 game.
Oh,
And
wow.
I was waiting. Oh, that's exactly what we found. Good.
Dr. Zahi predicting a bright future.
You are going to be the youngest Egyptologist in the world.
There's a lot we still don't know about ancient Egypt, but one thing's for sure, there'll be plenty of secrets left for young archaeologists like Owen to discover. Raf Sanchez, NBC News, Saqqara.
Finally, many of you have likely Googled something recently for school. I know sometimes I do for work. Well, it's got a lot of us thinking, just who is the team behind those famous Google Doodles that you frequently see on the Google homepage? Our friend Kevin Tibbles takes a look.
Everyone knows Google's got oodles of doodles, but did you know you could do a doodle for Google? Maybe even of a poodle. Okay, enough of that. Here's the lead on the Google Doodle team, Jessica Yu.
We want to continue to surprise and delight people with the choices that we make so that it doesn't ever become boring.
Jessica and her colleagues now invite kids to enter a contest designing their own Google Doodle, one that might even be selected to appear right there on the search engine so everyone can see it. This year's theme, I am strong because.
You could use whatever you want. You do have to photograph it eventually and send it in, but
otherwise go wild.
Go wild. Yeah, have fun.
During the pandemic, the Google Doodlers have been working remotely from home, just like you've been doing schoolwork on the kitchen table. But don't let that slow you down. There have been doodles for Martin Luther King Jr. Day, Grandfather's Day, the Lunar New Year, even celebrating mariachi music. Recently, the whole Google team put their heads together to help celebrate Valentine's Day, which was made from construction paper, glue, and glitter. So you don't even need a computer. Reagan and Kayla in New York have these questions for the Google team.
Do you have to be a really good artist to win the contest?
I don't think you have to be a really good artist. I think that it's the heart of what you're trying to express that matters the most. Be creative, have fun.
How do you guys come up with your themes? Do you base them on current events?
We look for a few things. We want to have a good mix all throughout the year. So you want to have a good diversity of topics, whether it's serious topics or funny topics or interactive games that we might produce to just beautiful illustrations.
Last year's Google Doodle contest received hundreds of thousands of entries, and over the years there have been lots of creative ideas. You can draw, craft, create using any materials you have at home. Then take a picture and send it in. And of course, for more information, Google the Google Doodle contest. Are you excited?
Yes, of course. I love to see what people come up with.
Deadline for entries is February 26th, so get your thinking caps on and get doodling.
All right, Kevin, thanks. Well, that's going to do it for us. Parents, just a reminder, if your child has a question about any topic, email a video to us at nightlynewskids@nbcuni.com, and we'll try to answer them in an upcoming episode. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll see you next time. And remember, take care of yourself and each other.